Assalamu alaikum to all my Muslim brothers and sisters. Namaste to our Hindu viewers. Sat Sri Akal to our Sikh family. Jai Janendra to our Jain brothers and sisters. Budhem Sharanam Gakami to all our Buddhist viewers. Shalom to our Jewish community. Peace be upon you to our Christian family. Aloha to our Hawaiian friends. Konnichiwa to our Japanese viewers. And I-hao to our Chinese audience. Globe showing Americas, no matter where you're from or what faith you follow, this story is for you. Because emotions, love, struggle, and hope have no borders. Sparkling heart. Backhand index pointing right, so before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon bell, so you never miss another story that touches your heart. The sun was setting over downtown Chicago, painting the skyline with streaks of orange and gold. Outside the glass doors of the Grand Sterling Hotel, a five-star haven for the city's elite, a sleek black Mercedes-Benz S-Class pulled up with quiet elegance. The rear door opened, and out stepped Isla Carter, 26, draped in a deep red designer dress with heels that clicked like a metronome against the polished stone. Her makeup was flawless, her hair perfectly styled, the picture of high-class confidence. But tonight her expression was anything but composed. "You're late," she snapped, throwing a sharp glance at the driver's seat. "I've been standing outside for 30 minutes in this weather." From the front, the driver stepped out slowly. Armin Khalid, 29, tall and clean-cut, didn't look like your average chauffeur. He wore a crisp navy blue suit, no hotel livery, no name tag, and his face carried a quiet strength. "There was a flat on I-90, he said calmly. "No signal." "I tried calling." Isla rolled her eyes. "Of course. You guys always have excuses. You drive a car for a living. How hard can it be to show up on time?" Armin didn't flinch. He walked to the back of the car, retrieved her Louis Vuitton bags, and followed her toward the lobby. As they reached the gold-trimmed entrance, she turned back and tossed over her shoulder, "Next time, don't keep your boss waiting. Time is expensive. Something you probably don't understand." He stopped just for a second. "I do," he said quietly. "That's why I won't waste any more of it." She turned, raising a brow. "Excuse me." He looked her in the eye, steady, unreadable. "This hotel won't be yours much longer." She laughed, confused. "What the hell does that mean?" He gave a half-smile. "Nothing. Just next time I walk through these doors, I won't be behind the wheel." And with that, he turned and walked away. Isla stood frozen for a moment, watching him disappear down the employee corridor. Her brows furrowed. Who was he to talk like that? Back in her penthouse suite, as city lights flickered to life, Isla sipped from a glass of wine and tried to shake the strange feeling he left behind. The nerve of that guy, talking in riddles like he owned the place. She rolled her eyes, scrolling through Instagram. "Drivers and their little daydreams," she muttered. But deep inside, something about the way he spoke unsettled her. Calm. Certain. Like he knew something she didn't. She didn't know it yet, but her life was about to flip upside down. The next morning, the Grand Sterling buzzed with tension. Staff members whispered in hallways. Managers looked stressed. A memo had gone out at 7 a.m. sharp. Emergency all-staff meeting, 9 a.m. sharp. Mandatory. Isla barely noticed. She was still wrapped in a silk robe on the 22nd floor, enjoying her morning latte on the balcony. Her best friend Sienna was on speakerphone ranting about some influencer drama. "I'm telling you, Isla, if they bring in new ownership, things are gonna change. New rules. New staff. Probably some old billionaire with a golf habit." Ella laughed. "Let them. Just as long as my suite stays untouched." But downstairs in the ballroom, the atmosphere had changed. Over 100 employees stood shoulder to shoulder, receptionists, bellhops, cleaning staff, security, all watching the stage nervously. The hotel's general manager, an older man named David Monroe, cleared his throat and stepped up to the mic. As of this morning, the Grand Sterling has officially been purchased by a private investor, he said. Please welcome your new owner. The doors opened, and in walked Armin Khalid. Not in a chauffeur's uniform. In a tailored charcoal gray suit, no tie and polished dress shoes, confident, composed like he'd been in boardrooms his whole life. The room went silent. Someone whispered, "Isn't that the driver guy?" Isla's coffee cup shattered on the floor of her suite. She stared at the TV, live streaming the announcement downstairs. Her mouth dropped open. No. Freaking way. Armin walked up to the podium with calm precision. "Good morning," he said, voice steady. "Some of you know me. Most of you think you do." He glanced around the room, catching the stunned stares. "For the past few months, I've worked quietly, driving, observing, listening. This place has potential. It just needed the right hands." He paused, then added, "As of today, those hands are mine." Murmurs rippled through the room. The staff looked shocked. David Monroe looked like he'd seen a ghost. Isla stood frozen, staring at the screen. He bought the hotel," she whispered. Then louder, "He owns the damn place?" She grabbed her phone and dialed the front desk. "Get my car ready. Now." 15 minutes later, she stormed into the lobby, red heels clicking hard across the marble floor. Armin turned as if he'd been expecting her. "You," she snapped. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" He looked at her, calm, unreadable. "It's not a joke. It's a lesson in humility. You were my driver. I was your driver. Until I bought the building you live in." She stared at him, furious and confused. "Why? Why go through all that? What game are you playing?" Armin stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "Not a game, Isla. Just unfinished business." And then he walked past her, leaving her standing there, stunned, speechless, and for the first time, unsure of herself. That evening, Isla couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the moment over and over again in her head. Armin standing at that podium, confident, cold, in full control. The same man she used to order around like a nobody. And now, he was the man who owned the hotel she lived in. The man who had looked at her like he knew something she didn't. Something deeper. She wasn't wrong. Downstairs, in his newly assigned penthouse office, Armin stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the Chicago skyline. But he wasn't looking at the lights, he was lost in memories. 10 years ago. Pakistan. His father, Khalid, a respected hotelier in Lahore, had built a boutique hotel empire from nothing, honest, kind, and beloved by the local community. And then he trusted the wrong man. A business partner named Imran Carter, powerful, well-connected, and ruthless. A man who smiled during handshakes and stabbed in the dark. The same man who would one day become Isla's stepfather. Imran had bled Khalid's business dry with forged documents, dirty deals, and bribes. When Khalid tried to go public, he was killed in a staged car accident. The police called it mechanical failure. Armin knew better. He was 17, alone, and angry. He left the country with nothing but a duffel bag, a fake passport, and his father's watch, vowing one day somehow to expose everything and get justice. Now, a decade later, he was back. With power. With proof. And with a plan. Back in her suite, Isla stared at the ceiling, unease growing in her chest. She pulled out her laptop and typed Armin Khalid into Google. The results shocked her. CEO of a Dubai-based investment group. Silent stakeholder in 5 luxury hotels across Europe. Net worth, confidential but rumored to be in the hundreds of millions. What the hell, she whispered. This wasn't just a driver with a grudge. This was someone who had deliberately stepped into her life and played the long game. And she had no idea why. She reached for her phone. Sienna, pick up. Please pick up. Her friend finally answered, groggy. Isla? It's 2 a.m. I need to talk, Isla whispered. About Armin. I think he's not here for business. I think he's here for me. Wait, what? Or maybe not me, Isla added, breath quickening. Maybe someone close to me. I think there's something he's not saying. Just then, a soft ding sounded. Isla walked to her door. A small envelope had been slid under it. She picked it up slowly, heart racing, and opened it. Inside was a photo. Her stepfather, Imran Carter, shaking hands with Khalid, smiling. On the back, scribbled in neat handwriting. Ask him about Lahore. The next morning, Isla sat across from her stepfather at their private country club, barely touching her breakfast. Imran Carter, clean-shaven, gray at the temples and still commanding at 58, folded his napkin and leaned back with a smile that always felt a little too perfect. You've been quiet today, he said casually. Something on your mind? Isla studied him. Do you remember a man named Khalid? The smile slipped just slightly. Imran chuckled, recovering quickly. That's quite the name. Can't say I do. Why? Isla slid the photo across the table. Color drained from his face. You sure about that? She asked. Imran's fingers hovered above the photo, then slowly pulled it closer. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Imran stared at her. What is this about? Ella leaned in, voice low. Armin, the new owner of Grand Sterling. He's Khalid's son. Imran froze. She watched his jaw tighten. What did you do to his family? Imran stood up, wiping his hands calmly. You don't know what you're talking about. I think I do, she said coldly. And I think he does too. He tossed a few bills on the table. Stay out of it, Isla. Then he walked away. Isla's stomach twisted. He didn't deny it. Back at the Grand Sterling, Armin sat in the executive lounge reviewing blueprints for the hotel's expansion when his security chief burst in. Sir, we intercepted a message. Imran Carter's people are coming here. Today. Armin nodded slowly, as if he expected it. Let them. 2 hours later, the hotel lobby went still as black SUVs pulled up outside. The men in suits, not hotel guests, entered in formation. The center of it all was Imran. He walked in like he owned the place. Armin was already waiting in the middle of the marble lobby, hands behind his back. Nice entrance, he said calmly. Still traveling with bodyguards? Afraid someone might remember what you did. Imran stepped forward. You're digging up ghosts, boy. You have no idea what world you've walked into. I know exactly what world I'm in, Armin replied. The one where people like you destroy lives and never pay the price. Imran glanced around. What's your endgame? Revenge? You bought a hotel. Bravo. But you're still just a boy playing dress-up. I didn't buy a hotel, Armin said. I bought a battlefield. Suddenly, 2 of Armin's men stepped out from behind a pillar, one of them holding a folder. Financial records, Armin said. Fake land deals. Offshore accounts. Bribes. And best of all, a copy of the signed contract you forged to steal my father's business. Imran lunged forward. You little... Security surrounded him instantly. The hotel's lead attorney appeared from the elevator, holding a USB drive. "These files have already been forwarded to the FBI," he said. "And a federal investigation has been requested." Imran's face turned pale. From the balcony above, Isla watched the whole thing, tears in her eyes. The man who raised her was a criminal. Armin stood at the center of the grand Sterling lobby, breathing deeply as Imran Carter was escorted out in handcuffs. Cameras flashed. Porters shouted questions. The entire city was about to learn what really happened 10 years ago. But just as the doors closed behind Imran, Armin's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A voice came through, low and chilling. "You think it's over?" Armin's blood froze. The voice wasn't Imran's. It was someone else, one of his remaining allies. A shadow Armin hadn't accounted for. "Room 2308, the voice said. "You've got 10 minutes. Or she dies." The line went dead. Armin didn't wait. He sprinted toward the elevator, pressing the button repeatedly. His mind raced. Room 2308, the old conference suite. It hadn't been used in months. As the elevator climbed, floor by floor, Armin's hands shook. When the doors opened, he ran. Room 2308. The door was ajar. Inside, Isla was tied to a chair, duct tape over her mouth, fear in her eyes. A man in black turned toward Armin, holding a pistol. "Too late," the man hissed. "No," Armin growled. "You want someone? Take me." The man smirked. "Already have you. This is just insurance." Just then, the lights cut out, and a red laser beam danced across the man's shoulder. Crack. A shot rang out from behind. The man collapsed. Armin turned. His head of security stood in the doorway, rifle in hand. "Backup's been watching you since the lobby," he said. "We had you covered." Armin rushed to Isla, pulled the tape from her mouth, and untied her hands. She gasped, eyes wide. He said you'd never see me again." "Not a chance," Armin whispered. "Not after everything." Later that night, as the hotel lights dimmed and guests returned to normal, Armin and Isla sat alone in the rooftop lounge. Chicago glittered below them. "You really came back for justice," Isla said softly. "I came back to finish what my father started," Armin replied. "But along the way..." He looked at her. She smiled. "You found me?" He nodded. "And maybe something else worth staying for." There was a long silence. Then she leaned over, her voice warm but steady. "I'm sorry I misjudged you, Armin. I thought you were just a driver." He smiled. "And I thought you were just a spoiled heiress." She laughed. "Touché." They looked at each other for a moment, and for the first time no walls were left between them. No lies. No power plays. Just the quiet possibility of something real. Below them, the Grand Sterling stood tall. And this time, it truly belonged to someone who had earned it. Final line. She thought he was just a driver, but he turned out to be the man who drove her straight into truth, redemption, and maybe even love.